One of the more regular comments that I get on my videos is about heat pumps as a financial investment or questions on return on investment or payback. And those comments tend to be coupled with some anti-heat pump chat that sometimes verges on rude, a lot of the time doesn't make much sense. But for some reason, heat pumps and conversations about investment seem to go hand in hand. So I'm going to spend some time in this video thinking through the investment of a heat pump, considering what else we could be thinking about as we make that decision, and considering where we could be if we wanted to install lots of heat pumps across the UK. So let's start with the cold hard cash. Heat pump installations vary in cost depending on the house. They could be as low as £7,000, £8,000 to potentially over £20,000 for the biggest homes. At the moment, there is a government grant through the boiler upgrade scheme, and we'll come back to the name of that scheme later on. The grant is £7,500. So this means that the cost to a customer could range from a free installation to £10,000 to £15,000. It really depends on how much work needs to be done, the size of the house, and any other complications associated with installing a heat pump. The assumption after installation is that because of a heat pump efficiency, we'll reduce the energy used to heat the home, and in doing so, we'll substantially reduce CO2 emissions, and we also could reduce our bills. And then that means that there may be some kind of payback. So, what might that look like? Well, if we assumed a house needed 12,000 kilowatt hours of heat each year, and it used to be heated by a 90% efficient gas boiler, that would use just over 13,300 kilowatt hours of gas. At the price cap, that would be a cost of six pence per kilowatt hour, or £832 per year. A heat pump like ours in this house that has an efficiency of around 3.5 over the last year would provide the same amount of heat to a home by using just over 3,400 kilowatt hours of electricity. Again, at the price cap for electricity of 24.5 pence per kilowatt hour, the cost per year to heat the heat pump would be around £840. So pretty much the same cost. And that's great if your installation was really cheap, if it was free, but not that great if your investment cost you around £10,000. I should point out as well that if you removed a gas boiler and didn't have any other gas appliances, you could also remove your gas meter and get rid of the standing charge of around £115 per year. But still, it isn't that lucrative an investment, even with taking the standing charge off as well. So, what's going on? Heat pumps were supposed to reduce costs, weren't they? It is called the boiler upgrade scheme. Well, yes, they do have the potential to reduce costs. And if a heat pump was working more efficiently than ours, and there are plenty of examples of this on the Heat Pump Monitor website, or if a gas boiler was working less efficiently when it was replaced, and there will be plenty examples of that too, we could see a reduction cost of several £100s per year if a heat pump was performing well. If the house had solar panels or a battery or both, some of the heat pump power requirements could be met for free from solar panels on the roof. Again, this would help cut costs that little bit more. But I guess there's some context to remember that the gas bills were only £832 per year anyway, and gas is pretty expensive at the moment. If that went to zero, it would pay for a £5,000 heat pump in 6 years, £8,500 heat pump in 10 years. But the bills aren't going to go to zero when we install a heat pump. There will still be some electricity costs. And the idea that savings on heating bills would be lucrative enough to save someone thousands of pounds in such a short space of time just isn't that sensible. So maybe, has someone been misleading us? Has someone been lying to us? Well, probably yes, that's usually the case. But also no. So let's get into the detail. First, on our existing gas and electricity tariffs, part of the problem are the additional taxes and levies that we have on our bills. So first on gas, we have taxes and levies that add up to about 6% of our gas bill. But on electricity, we pay costs of more like 30%. The system, as it is fixed against heating cleanly. So what's going on? What's the story there? Well, let's be clear, electricity didn't used to be clean. And therefore, as with lots of things we want people to do less of, it's right to tax something that is damaging. But as the grid is getting cleaner and cleaner, additional taxes and levies on electricity costs is now slowing down the energy transition, or at least making it more difficult. Some of the levies in the past have been used to help clean up the grid, so there is a cause and effect to consider here. But now, as of 2024, the additional costs, to some extent, are punishing rather than subsidising heat pump adoption. If they were taken off completely, the unit rate of electricity could be around 18 pence now, which would mean costs of £620 per year to run a heat pump, to run that notional heat pump in that notional building, and a saving of around £300 a year versus a gas boiler. A bigger step would be to put those levies on gas to punish the polluting thing, which would shift the dial even further, and I'm not actually advocating for that. That would push loads of people into fuel poverty, which we should not do. But if we were able to remove the additional cost on electricity, we'd help the fuel poor as well as helping people move to heat pumps. But I'm going to be clear here, so far in this video, I'm not making the argument that heat pumps are a good financial investment. I'm clearly not a financial advisor, so don't listen to me anyway. I'm not actually sure that many people have made that argument over the years anyway about heat pumps. And I'm not sure why or where the obsession on payback or return on investment comes from. So, if not a lucrative investment, what are heat pumps? Why should we use them? Well, they are an investment that could reduce costs slightly, but they're also a lifestyle choice that impacts much more broadly. For us in Durham, in our Victorian terrace, they have improved our comfort. They've reduced the toxic fumes on our doorstep, and they've taken us out of a fossil fuel economy, at least for our heat, that ultimately funds dictators like Vladimir Putin or dodgy regimes all around the world. And the heat pump has significantly reduced our share of the contribution of emissions towards climate change, and I'm thrilled about that. Heat pumps are things that are worth much more than savings on our heating bills. I mentioned earlier on the grant in place to support people getting heat pumps is called the Boiler Upgrade Scheme. So why is it called Upgrade? Well, because these little boxes are an upgrade on our heating systems. They are good for our homes, helping us be more comfortable, and they're good for our planet, improving air quality and reducing emissions. So, I'm confused about the way heat pumps tend to be talked about. We don't ask for a payback on financial decisions like a new 3-piece sofa suite, or a new car, or a new kitchen or bathroom, or a snazzy holiday, or a big garden refurb. But many people spend thousands of pounds on those kind of things each year for more comfortable lives or to show off. So could heat pumps in the future be something that's considered in the round like this too? So let's finish by saying that most heat pump installations are likely to mean your heating costs are lower as of tomorrow or in the future. And really well-performing systems could give you substantial savings, several £100s each year. But not necessarily big enough that you'd have a lucrative return on investment as you install one. If a home already had solar panels or a battery, or if you had a large stake in a cooperative like Ripple Energy, then costs may be even lower. And when we've electrified everything in a home, these investments do start to impact on each other. And then if we had a policy change on a national level on our gas and electricity costs, the story may well be very different. But the decision to spend several £1,000s on a heat pump should not just be about making heating cost savings, even though it could be. It's also a lifestyle choice for improved comfort, cleaner air, and playing our part to try and reduce the risk of catastrophic climate change. We do need grants or cheap loans to continue to facilitate heat pump installations, and there are lots of things that policymakers could do to help incentivise the change as well. Costs of installation and lack of payback may be something that keeps the heat pump rollout slow until something changes. So, what do you reckon? When you first heard about heat pumps, did you expect a payback? Or did you see heat pumps more as a climate tech and payback would be a bonus? I'd love to know more about what you think.